Hey guys, BojanDulabic here from Weekly Stand-Up News and Dulabic Studio. So today I'm going to talk to you about lenses. Now this is really for all you DSLR users or you guys who want to become DSLR users. Lenses are extremely important. They are really the ones that give you the look that you're looking for. There's of course individual settings that are important, but lenses really are crucial. So today I'm going to talk about two types. There's more than two types, but these are really the primary ones, which is prime lens and a zoom lens. Now right now I'm using a prime lens to record this, and I use this lens to record all of my weekly stand-up news shows and a lot of my other ones. So the advantage of a prime lens is that it gives you really great low light performance. So if you're shooting in an environment that's very low light, you would use this kind of a lens. I have Canon 50mm prime lens, which has an f-stop of 1.4. Now I'm not going to go too much into technical details, but there's just a few things that are important to remember. If you're getting a prime lens, most of them are going to be 50mm. 50mm means that's how much it's zoomed in. And I'll talk about that in a little bit in a few minutes. So 50mm, that's how much it's zoomed in, right? And then beside that, you have to look at the f-stop. That's f, and then it would say 1.4, 1.8, 2.0, and so on. The lower the f-stop number, the more light it lets through. So I chose to go with 1.4. I also checked out the 1.8 lens, and actually if you want to check out some test videos that I did, just click right here. So these are the two main things to remember. The lower the f-stop number, the more light it lets through, and the better it will perform in low light situations. Now that also means the lower the f-stop number, the shallower the depth of field is going to be. So if you look behind me, you see how it's a bit out of focus. Now right now I'm using an f-stop of 2.0. Now I find that to be a sweet spot. It just works for me. But if I went down to 1.4, the background will be even more blurry. Now sometimes you want that. But also keep in mind, when you have that kind of a shallow depth of field, focusing becomes different. So that's the problem with the prime lens. It really gives you great shallow depth of field if you go with 1.4, or you can even go with the 1.2. But like I said, focusing becomes an issue. So that's something you have to decide, whatever works for you. Now the obvious disadvantage with a prime lens is that there's no zoom. So if you want to zoom, you're going to have to use a dolly track. And I'm going to talk about that in another video later on, what I use in those situations. Now let's talk about a zoom lens. So obviously a zoom lens, like the name says, it allows you to zoom. When I bought this camera, the Canon T3i, it came with an 18 to 55mm lens. It's a sort of a starter kit. Now that's really a great starter kit because when you zoom out completely at 18mm, it shows you a lot more than a 15mm prime lens, for example. Problem is when you zoom out at 18, the f-stop is 3.5. Now that requires a lot of light. So remember, a 15mm lens that I have has a 1.4 f-stop, and the 18mm zoom lens, when it's fully zoomed out, gives you a 3.5. So that's a huge range. So that requires a lot more light. So I go back and forth between those two. When I shot my feature, Living Life Awaiting to Die, I used mostly the prime lens for all the close-ups and medium shots because it allowed me to shoot under low light. But when I needed a wide shot, I used a zoom lens, fully zoomed out, usually at 18 to 20mm. But that required more light. So you're going to have to go back and forth on that, whatever makes sense to you. It just depends on your individual production and your individual needs. But those are essentially the two prime differences. So the more you zoom in with a zoom lens, the more light is required. So these are the things you should definitely think about. Usually when you buy these cameras, they come with a starter kit, which, like I said, in this case, it's 18 to 55mm. Sometimes they will give you, I think 18 to 200 or maybe 50 to 200. That's really a great range as well. Again, depending on what you're doing, depending on whether you're shooting fast-moving objects, whether light is an issue, if it's indoor, outdoor, all these things. So that's something worth thinking about. I definitely recommend getting a prime lens. I think every videographer or photographer, for that matter too, needs to have a prime lens because light is always your enemy. It's just, you could be shooting outside and it's a really nice sunny day. You think, well, I don't need a prime lens. I can just get away with a zoom lens, and then all of a sudden, boom, the weather changes and it becomes dark and gloomy. Stay tuned for the next episode where I'm going to talk about the different accessories that I use, such as the follow focus to adjust the focus, which becomes very crucial if you're using a prime lens. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook to stay up to date on everything. Subscribe to my channel if you like the videos, and I'll see you soon.